Today we've got Chris Camp from the painting company, Atlanta Painting Company, among others, in with us. And we're really just interested to just learn all things, painting, kind of the history, the origin, what's next. Just kind of pick your brain and learn, try to take some of that away and put it out there.
Okay. Well, I guess I'll start just kind of a little bit with the history. So I am not a native of Georgia like everybody else. So I've been down here it'll be 15 years in August. I moved here specifically to start Atlanta Painting Company. I had been out in Phoenix and got into the painting industry in college, which is not what most people would think of. But I was a finance major in college and always kind of been an entrepreneurial person, love business. And so met this guy who was like, you can run your own business in the summer. And I was like, well, that sounds better than working at Burger King, right?
Of course.
So I did that for a couple summers, did pretty well with it. And then actually worked for them as a full-time employee my senior year of college. I had 15 franchisees underneath me, and then graduated from college, got a job out in Phoenix as a sales manager for a residential painting company out there. We did pretty well. We tripled the business in about 9 months and decided that I was going to move to Atlanta and start a business. So it was kind of wild. I was 23. Never had been to Atlanta, never seen the city, never visited the city. Basically was like the demographics look really good, and packed up a U-Haul and moved across the country and started a business. So that was 15 years ago.
So, and that's incredible. And you hear stories like that. There was a guy, I don't know what it was. There was a story I heard recently about someone who very similar to this, who literally was like, I just threw a dart at the wall and I was like, you know what? I'm building my base there. But yeah, so it was Michigan State?
No, I went to school, Grand Valley State, which is a D2 school in Grand Rapids, Michigan.
Because I meant to ask you if you were a hockey guy.
Yeah, no, I mean,
Red Wings?
Yeah, oh yeah,
yeah.
So unfortunately, right now I'm a big Detroit sports fan. So we're terrible at everything.
Right.
Baseball, hockey, basketball.
Even Stafford left.
I know we can't.
Yeah, that's right.
So,
but there's a connection there. I mean, he's a Georgia guy.
Yeah, no, he's an awesome guy. I mean, I don't think there was anybody in Detroit who was upset that he left because he gave everything. Like he moved there, he lived there year round. Like him and Kelly were like huge in the community. Like it was.
The Lions have had a hard go. I mean, they get great players, and it's just there's always that one missing piece.
Yeah. Well,
I'm actually a fan of the Lions. I've liked them from before. I mean, it's hard not to like them when they have the superstars because they get national attention always. So
they had Barry, and then they had Calvin
Johnson.
Yeah,
also a Georgia guy.
Yep. Stafford. So
So all right, well that's good. So Michigan, Arizona, and then Georgia. And so when you came here, were you already starting family? Family started here.
So I started family here. So I moved here in August of 06, and then. My wife is from Michigan. She moved down here to get a teaching job, and randomly met in Buckhead.
But you had never met before.
No, never met before. So
what a small world.
It is. Yeah, it was funny. She went to Ferris State, which is the rival of the school that I went to.
Okay.
I mean, so we were probably 45 minutes to an hour away. In college. She moved to Grand Rapids like 3 months after I left Grand Rapids. And then she ended up in Georgia. And so we met. Got married, did all that jazz. We got 3 kids now. So So it's craziness.
That is awesome.
Yeah.
I'm sure y'all have fun from time to time with the whole past rivalry.
Oh,
and
yeah.
I'm sure that comes up.
And I'm a big Michigan fan, and she's a Michigan State basketball fan. So, she is a significantly better athlete than me. So she likes to make sure that she does that. So
Okay.
she's a former All-State basketball player, and
Okay.
so I think it was this year. I think it was Mother's Day this year was the first time I've ever beat her in horse. So it was a monumental day for me.
Good. Well, you just mark that on your calendar and hang on to it. And every time there's anything, you just bring that back up.
Totally.
There's no limit to how many times you can use it.
No.
I can relate to that feeling of inferiority. So as a kid, my younger sister was way better at. I was like okay at sports,
Yeah.
so like I was good enough to be on the team.
Yep.
And I played a lot of sports.
Yep.
I was never one of the best on any team, but I was always good.
Yeah.
Okay. But my sister was like incredible.
Yeah.
She was every team she played on, she was like the best on the team. And so she always held that over my head. Always. Her trophy case was much better than mine. So I totally understand that.
Yeah, I've loved sports. I was always kind of that average or just above average guy. Somebody who helped the team win, but
contributor.
yes, but definitely not the superstar.
Right.
So by any means.
Yeah.
So.
I just wasn't tall enough for most things. I was always needed to be just a little bit more.
Exactly. So.
Yeah. Okay. So came here.
Yep.
Was it immediately painting in the beginning?
Yeah. So
right from the start.
starting painting from the beginning. So, so kind of a caveat, like I did really well in college. My junior year of college running my business, I think I made almost $50,000 as a college junior.
Sure.
And so I was a finance major, and I was pretty dead set that like that's what I wanted to do. I wanted to go into the stock market, and I remember interviewing for jobs with these different banks or financial institutions and all this, and they were like, "Yeah, well, your starting salary is going to be $28,000," and I'm sitting here going, what?
No, no, it's not.
Like, hold on. Like, I made double that. Like, why would I do this? And so, and I'm not really the shirt and tie, like go into the office and sit in a cubicle kind of guy. I would go crazy. So, so painting was kind of the thing. I'll be very honest with you. I don't love painting.
Right.
I'm not like, it's not like it's, I love the thing that I love about painting that, we love is, it's really awesome to help somebody take a house and kind of turn it into a home. Paint, as funny as it is, can dramatically change a space. So you can change the outside of a house really easily. You can change the inside of a house with paint. It's the cheapest way to literally change the way something looks. And so it's really cool to work with a homeowner who's been in a house for 15 years and like wants to update the house. And it's like, all of a sudden they fall back in love with this place that they haven't, and there's an emotional attachment to, a home that people have that just kind of is just kind of cool, I guess is probably the best way. So
I could see that. So like it's kind of so it's like the nuts and bolts and the little stuff that you're doing isn't as important as like the after effects.
Yeah,
so
totally.
like getting the look on someone's face when they get to come back in, that kind of thing. Like
and
the
obviously,
emotions.
I know painting and I know it well and I understand all the processes and how to do it well and all that. But it's not like my passion has never been painting.
Right.
Like people always kind of like, how did you end up in painting? Like painting was kind of the vehicle to be able to serve people, really. And that's the part that I like. And then the other part of it too is we're in an industry, like the construction industry is, most people are going to tell you it's going to take you way longer than what they tell you, and it's going to be more expensive. And so there's not a lot of trust of the industry as a whole.
Right.
So it's kind of cool to be able to like go kind of shock people and you're like, that was an awesome experience. Like you showed up, you gave me an estimate, and then I paid you when it was done, and like I didn't have to do anything else. Like, so that part of it's kind of fun too. Is just kind of changing people's minds or perspective on what to expect when they're working with a contractor.
Right. Well, yeah, I mean, because it's kind of like it's almost like there's a lot of industries like that. So automotive repair is similar in that way, where people kind of don't know, like, am I being kind of taken down the wrong road? And so a lot of the home services that have that kind of bad rap.
Oh, yeah.
A lot of it's maybe not totally justified, but in public opinion is what it is. So yeah, and you guys painted my house a couple of years ago, so I mean, I can attest that it was exactly what you said. They every step of the way they just showed up, they did it, it was perfect.
Yeah.
And so yeah.
Cool.
All right, so came in, started. Did you have kind of a master plan in the early days of like, I want to expand this, or
No.
did it just kind of evolve?
Yeah, it kind of evolved. So we landed in '06 is when we started. Economy was great. And then '08, the bottom fell out. And so it was the first 5 years of being in business were very much a struggle. It was a consistent keeping the doors open kind of mentality, very much survival. There wasn't a lot of like expand abundance. Like it was how do we survive to get to the next week kind of thing.
Right.
And so I guess it would have been about 11. Things kind of started to, well, maybe a little bit later, 12, something like that. 12, 13, things started to change, and we started to get some traction. From a revenue perspective, we kind of stayed flat for really, like, from year 1 to year 5. We didn't grow a ton. We were, pretty comparable through those 5 years. And then we started to get some traction, and we started to kind of take off and started to grow pretty rapidly. And when we started that, it was kind of like, maybe there's something here that we've kind of got. And what's funny about it is I will tell people all the time, I'm incredibly thankful that we started the business when we did, because for the first 5 years, we kind of just got to screw around and figure out what worked and what didn't. And we kind of, there wasn't a lot of work to get anyway. So
Right.
It was kind of like,
It's trial and error.
it was just trial and error. It was like, hey, well, that doesn't work. Let's try this. And I don't know that if things had been really good, we probably would have grown really quickly. And we would have probably blown up later because we didn't get to build the foundation of figuring out, well, that doesn't work. This does. That doesn't work. This does. And so we probably would have blown up,
In a bad way.
In a bad way,
Yeah.
because we wouldn't have been able to handle the growth.
Right.
And that's something that I'm really thankful for, of being able to really understand, lay the foundation down, figure out what works. And then by the time that we had done that, the market had kind of shifted. And we also kind of positioned ourselves kind of being there and working through it, that like we were at that point just kind of ready to grow and expand. And so from, I guess, let's see, what's that? Like in the probably last 7 years, we've 10x'd the business in Atlanta. And as we kind of did that, then we also have, got an opportunity to expand to some other markets and things like that. But if we hadn't had those kind of first 4 or 5 years of trial and error, we wouldn't be where we are today.
Sure.
So,
Well, I have to imagine that, just from seeing, like you say, the growth over the last 5 years. I mean, we've known you for about 5 years now. So I have to imagine you guys are probably one of the larger painting companies in Atlanta, in Metro Atlanta.
yeah. So there's kind of different market segments in the painting industry. There's what they call res repaint, which is what we predominantly do in Atlanta. There's commercial. There is new construction. There's kind of industrial. So there's different market segments. In the res repaint market, we're the largest in Atlanta, and we're one of the 10 largest in the United States. Sure. In that segment. So there's definitely a lot. I mean, there's some massive companies.
I
that
assume the industrial ones.
Yeah, industrial and
there's
commercial.
massive companies, I'm sure, because those jobs are so big.
Yeah, there's a couple of companies in Atlanta that are $80 to $100 million in revenue that I know of that are painting companies. So we're definitely not there, but from a res repaint standpoint,
right.
yeah.
So what have you ever thought about getting into some of those other markets, or are there unique challenges there?
There's some unique challenges from a technical standpoint. We did start 3 years ago a commercial company that handles ground up, large scale commercial construction. And so we basically cover the entire Southeast with that company. So it's working directly for GCs. So we've got, a project in Nashville, a project in Huntsville, a project in Savannah, 3 projects in Atlanta. Like we've got a bunch of projects that are going on, and those projects are just different, right? It's a building that somebody's building, and it's get it done, paint it. It's a on time, on budget. You're working for a general contractor kind of thing. So there's not a lot of emotion with it, but it's from a scaling perspective. That company will do probably about the same amount of revenue that our res repaint will do in Atlanta this year.
Sure.
And that's 3 years old, but that's, the average job size of the res repaint is 4,000, and the average job size is
like 20 or 30 or something,
or 300 or 400.
Okay.
So
way bigger.
Yeah. So it's
so
just
the margin may be smaller percentage wise,
Yeah.
but because the job is so much bigger, you end
Correct.
up making the same or more.
Yeah. Yep. Exactly.
Yeah.
So yeah.
Cool.
So
is it the same crews that do those jobs?
no,
or
it's
is it
completely
someone who specializes in
It's
that?
completely different. So perfect example of that is we had a project that we're doing in Albany that our commercial company went to look at, and they're like, "Oh, we can't do this job. We aren't going to make money on it," and blah blah. And so it's like, "Oh, well, let's have the residential company take a look at it and see." And it's funny because the residential companies just killed it and made a ton of money on the project, and the commercial company was like, "We can't do it. We can't make any money.
It was just too small."
Two different styles of project, two different skill sets, two different, the commercial guys want to come in and just spray and blow and go. The residential guys are used to coming into your house. You've got furniture, you've got a dog, you've got all this stuff. You've got unique kind of challenges or prep that need to be done. They're used to working on ladders all day. The commercial guys, they don't work on ladders. I mean, they basically, they're in a lift or they're on the ground, right? And so it's just different, right?
Yeah.
So it's different guys.
Probably different materials too.
Oh, for sure.
Like,
Yeah.
I'm sure they're probably painting onto metal a lot, so it's totally different.
Yeah, there's different
chemicals and everything.
Yeah, exactly. So it's just completely different. And here's the thing. So like on the residential side, like we have to be the experts when it comes to materials because you don't know anything about paint, right?
Yeah, that's right.
So the customer, like we have to be the expert and we have to educate the customer. On the commercial side, the general contractor goes, "Here's your spec sheet.
Yeah.
This is what we're using on the project." And we put it on the house or put it on the building or whatever it is.
That's right.
So
yeah, that's it.
yeah.
Okay. Well, that's good. I like that.
Yeah.
All right. So currently, we've got the beginnings. We've kind of grown through good foundation, growth, and then somewhere in the 13, 14, 15 range, you said, I've got this repeatable formula, and now I need to start looking at what can I do with it.
Yeah.
So that Nashville came early on.
Nashville was the first one, and that was kind of I would love to say that it was a really strategic decision,
Right.
But it wasn't.
Just a happy accident.
Yeah. So one of the guys that had worked for me all the way back to when I was in college, he became a good friend of mine. His name is Jeremy, and he kind of, through happenstance, we reconnected. My wife invited him to a surprise birthday party, and we connected and started talking, and he was looking for an opportunity, and he'd been in the industry for 13 years. And so he ended up, we were like, well, we'll partner with you. Let's go to Nashville. And so he has been up there, I guess it's 4 years now. And so we took a lot of the things we had learned and the foundational principles, and we just kind of really went really slow. We were like, all right, we're just going to take it slow. We're just going to, we started out with just literally Jeremy. We're like, hey, Jeremy, go do it. You're in charge of the office, the sales, the production, like everything, right? And then we housed kind of all the back end stuff here in Atlanta and took care of all that stuff for him. And he did good, and so we learned a bunch of stuff, and they've done an awesome job, and they've grown, and they're one of the larger residential companies in Nashville now, and he's done a great job there, and they've got an awesome team of people, and so then the next one that came along was the commercial company. We basically kind of saw a great opportunity through some relationships that I developed and some partnerships. And so started that, and that was 3 years ago. And then kind of taking a break to stabilize both of those businesses. And they're now at a place where they're kind of rocking and rolling and have got their teams kind of in place. And so starting this June, we'll be headed to Dallas to launch another residential company there.
So Dallas, Texas is the next spot on the map. So is that kind of a beachhead to kind of put fingers out into the state of Texas?
So
because that's a massive market.
Yeah, I mean, so between Dallas, Houston, San Antonio, and Austin, 80% of the population of Texas lives in that kind of quadrant of the thing. And so our plan was to kind of put a head down in Dallas and then slowly expand out from there and having a location in each of those kind of cities and kind of growing up.
Do it over a year or two.
Yeah. And the great thing about it is, this is kind of the thing I tell our team all the time, like, we don't have to expand.
Right.
Like, so we're not going to go be like, well, we've got to have, 4 locations up in, whatever. Like, we'd love to continue to expand. We'd love to continue to grow. But we won't grow and expand unless we have the right person to put into the market.
Yep.
The person who's kind of the general manager, owner on the ground is the most important in my opinion, because they're the one driving things every day.
Yep.
And so we've got an awesome guy, Taylor, who's been here with us in Atlanta for a couple years. He's going to be the one moving to Dallas and kind of heading that up. And the hope is that he'll kind of grow that and get somebody up in place and then kind of help grow the other markets there. And then, so it's kind of a 2-pronged approach. We'll have that kind of going. And then like Charlotte, Raleigh, Jacksonville kind of are on the radar of expansion kind of in this kind of eastern area.
Yeah.
So.
Okay. So you talk a lot about, that's exciting too, because there's that North Carolina is very similar in the way that Texas, you say that there's that kind of square where most people are. Yep. North Carolina, I think, is similar to that. North Carolina actually has more people than the state of Georgia. Yeah. Surprisingly. Yeah. It's a big market, relatively. Yep. And Jacksonville is, I think, if I'm not mistaken, the biggest metropolitan area in the United States, because that county. Yeah. What's the county that I forget? Jay used to live there, but I've been down there a bunch. But anyway, there's that county is downtown. It's all one county. Yeah. It's not like 5 different ones. It's all the one. So that's a good market. Yep. You talk a lot about people. Mm-hmm. So I've noticed a trend in kind of having these conversations with people that the thing that their success hinges on, in most cases, almost always, is how good is the team. Mm-hmm. So when you're kind of interviewing and looking for people to add to the team, kind of what kind of things do you look for? What are the things that stand out that are like, this person is not a good fit? Is it atmosphere? Is it skills? Is it both?
So what's funny, that's an awesome question, because I think I tell our team all the time, we don't have a shortage of opportunity. We should have a shortage of leaders to take those opportunities and run with them.
Yep.
And so I think people are the most important key ingredient when it comes to a business. So when we hire, we don't typically get into what is your skill set until we kind of get to kind of we have kind of 4 key characteristics that we're looking for. So number one, the first thing we look for more than anything is what is their character. So, what is their character? Number two is kind of what we would call is like, what have they done? So there's a lot of people that can have an amazing resume, but they've never done anything. Meaning that they've never gone out and made something happen. They've never gone out and had a position where they had to figure out how to get X to Y. So a perfect example, it's like, I'll use an example is we have a office manager in Nashville. Her name is Carly, and she's awesome. She's been with us probably about 14 months now. And when we were interviewing her, like, she was former Air Force, and she's got a great resume. The thing that stood out more than anything is that she had created her own charity, had created fundraisers for the charity. She had gone and like actually executed on something, whether it was successful or not. Just the fact that she had gone and done something, that's a big thing for us. Is we want people that are doers. Not necessarily what we would call thinkers, right? Thinkers are great, and you need them eventually in your organization to strategically think about how to put things together. And we're kind of at a place in our organization where we are kind of bringing more of those kind of people in to help, help us strategically.
Be strategic, yeah.
Be strategic. How can we execute this the best way? What's the best operational way to do this? But
if you got too many of those people, then you have a big problem. If you don't have enough of the ones that actually get on the ground and start doing the work, then
and I
you're just sitting in a room talking.
Yeah, and I would just tell you this is like, we want doers.
Yeah.
And if I'm going to hire and when we hire thinkers, I'm not hiring thinkers at an operational level. I'm hiring thinkers at a strategic level.
Organizational
level.
Yeah,
I want them in a role where they're helping to create strategy for the organization. And what I've actually done is most of the thinkers are advisors that I pay outside of my organization.
Right.
So I'm like
contracting to do a project.
I have a, we have a CFO that we basically keep on retainer, and we pay him on a monthly basis, and we can call him and be like, hey, we're thinking about this stuff. What are some things we should think about? Or we have an advisor that we keep on, and he's been great because he's like, here's the team you need to build. You need to build this success team. Like, we pay those people to think and help us strategically, but I don't know that until you get to a certain size in an organization that you need a bunch of those people inside of it. You need people that get up and go do things.
Yeah.
Because you're going to mess up a lot of things in a business, but you need people that get up the next day and go, hey, I did it that way. Didn't work. Let's do it this way today.
Yeah.
So that's number two. And then the third thing we look for is skills. What is your skill set? What's your background? But if somebody's a doer and they've got character, it's funny, the kind of guy that helped me build the business from the ground, his background before he came here was he worked at Coke and put pop on a shelf as a merchandiser.
Right.
Like, no construction background, no, that's that. So Wes, who is the president of Atlanta, runs the day-to-day operations. He's the guy who, his background was he was in the mortgage industry before he came here.
Sure.
So skills are important, but we're more looking for parallels of what skills do you have that could cross over to what we're trying to do. And if I get somebody who's got great character, who's a doer, and has construction kind of knowledge-based background, that's an added bonus. And if somebody he's going against to get a job doesn't, and they have all the same, he's going to win out. But we're not specifically going and saying, I need somebody who's in this industry. Most of the people that we hire come from outside of our industry.
Sure.
And then the last thing we do is, do we like them?
Yeah.
And that's kind of a funny question to ask, but we
getting along matters.
It does. And,
a lot.
And we've just recognized the environment and the culture of an organization is so important that if people don't like each other and want to go to work, they're not going to be as productive.
Right.
So We're
It
just,
leads to all kinds of other problems too.
yeah. But we're just like, do we like them? Like, would we want to hang out with them on a Saturday?
Yeah.
And drink a beer,
Watch a game,
Yeah.
drink a beer.
Yeah. Like, and if we don't, we're like, well, they could have all the other stuff, but if we don't like that, like, we're not going to bring them on the team.
Right.
And as weird as that sounds, those are like the 4 things that we just kind of like the lens that we take them through.
So with the coming from other industries, I've seen some value there where sometimes and I'm sure that people have made this mistake a lot, is going, okay, I am only going to hire people that have experience in my field. And if you go that route, you're going to get a lot of people that have got bad habits and bad practices that they learned somewhere else, and they're going to bring them into your team. And so sometimes there's a lot of value to be had in bringing someone in that's got those top things, the drive and the character and no experience specifically, and going, I'm just going to teach you the right way and not have to fix mistakes.
Yeah. Yeah, definitely. And
There's
that's
strength there.
Yeah. And the other thing I think the other piece is they bring a perspective from
Fresh.
other industries that they look at. So we'll have people that'll come in and they'll be like, 3 months in, they're like, hey, why do we do this? This doesn't make sense. And we're like, what do you mean? They're like, well, like, I don't understand why we do this. I'm like, well, because we've always done that. Yeah, but why don't we just do it this way? Oh, well, I hadn't thought of that. Sounds great. Like, we tell people all the time, like, when you come in, learn how we do things, but then don't be afraid to be like, hey, this doesn't make sense. This is,
Ask questions.
Ask questions. We want people that are curious. We want people that are always, one of our core values is to make it better. Like, just because we do something a certain way doesn't mean it's the best way to do it. It's just the way we do it today. So,
right. Yeah. I love that. I love that. Man, so lot of cool things happening with the growth. And I also like the approach of not automatically just growing for the sake of growing, like doing it if it's the right time, if it makes sense, and if we've got the right people to fill those spots. And sometimes I'm assuming you have to kind of wait you have to develop people internally and go, okay, you're now ready. I see the qualities in you that you have earned a spot to go start your own market.
Yeah. So our vision as an organization is to grow and expand, to create opportunities for people to become the best versions of themselves. One of the things that we realized a long time ago, so Paul, for example, was the one who helped me kind of start Atlanta from the ground up. He, former background at Coke, merchandiser, just putting pop on the shelf. What we found as we've kind of looked back is people don't become better unless they're challenged to become better. You don't just wake up tomorrow and be like, oh man, I'm better today than I was yesterday. You wake up today and become better because something has challenged you to have to become better, to step up. So for us, the growth is really, as we keep growing, it allows us to take a person who, could sit in the role they're in for the next 20 years and be really good at it, but never really become the best version of them. Because there's not any challenge to it. Like, they figured out how to do it. They figured out how to solve this problem. They know X plus Y equals Z, and it's going to be that way every day. I'm going to get up and I'm doing awesome. But taking somebody and taking them out of their comfort zone and dropping them into a role that they're not quite ready for allows them to have to grow. And sometimes it can be really painful. For them and as an organization, because there's just growing pains of, hey, like, you're not really ready for this, and this job is probably too big for you. And so we kind of have to balance that with making sure that people are ready. But we always want to kind of toe that line of, like Taylor going to Dallas. He's 90% of the way ready to go do it. But the last 10%, he isn't going to learn until he's actually in it.
You got to throw it, get into the fire. But so I could see that being a thing too, where like you need to, like, there's like a minimum line where like if I jump the gun and throw you in, like you need to be 70% or greater.
Yeah.
And if I throw you out there at 50%,
you're going to drown.
that's on me
Yeah.
because you're not going to be able. There's not going to be enough momentum to get you to where you need to be. So yeah,
You're gonna
knowing
drown.
where that line is the hard part.
Yeah, and we just constantly have to kind of bounce back and forth. And that's the thing, like we've learned. Like we've had some great people that we threw into some roles and then they just didn't do very well. And we're like, why? Like, you were great at this role, but you weren't great here. Why? And that's the questions that we kind of as leadership just keep asking of, okay, well, you didn't have this skill set. You didn't have that. Like the more we've refined what someone needs to be able to do their job well, the easier it's been for us to be able to go, he's 70% of the way. He's got these things. He isn't going to learn these other things until he's actually in the role anyway. So,
Right.
Let's go ahead and put him in the role and, support him and help him grow and, so.
That's great.
Or her. So.
Yeah, of course. So, what other industries, or not industries, but I guess like we talked briefly before about like add-on, like within just Atlanta specifically, are there like, so if I were watching this and I were, homeowner, what are some of the other things that I could potentially need?
We do, one of the things we've added is we actually do flooring. So through a lot of research, most of our customers, because we're a pretty big ticket item, like you're not getting a room, like we're not coming to paint a room every 2 months, right?
Right.
Most people, it's kind of a thing. So
Every couple of years.
Yeah. Actually, what we found is most of our customers, it's within the first 2 or 3 years of being in a house, or somewhere between 12 to 15 years of being in a house. And so that's kind of our kind of, I would say 65 to 70% of our business falls in those two windows. And so what we found is it's either I'm moving into the house and trying to make it my own, or I'm moving out of my house trying to get ready to sell it, to move into something different, or to downsize, or, all that, right? And occasionally we have obviously the in-between of I just want to update things.
So I'm nesting or I'm staging.
Yeah. And so we've just kind of been thinking strategically about how can we serve our customers better. And one of the things that we were like, well, flooring is super common with painting. I mean, one of the most common things people do is paint floors. You can dramatically change a house with paint floors.
Yep.
I mean, and so we decided last fall to launch a flooring division to be able to offer our customers the ability for us, because it makes it easier on the customer to have to deal with a contractor versus 3.
Sure.
Or, and so that's where we've been able to do that. It's been great. It's been awesome because we'll be able to come in. And for us, it's awesome because we also then control the process. So, hey, flooring guy, you need to be here this day. Painting guy's here. We're not having to worry. Scheduling. We can make it seamless. It's quicker. It's more efficient. We get in and out faster. So a project that might have taken 2 weeks for a customer takes, 9 days now because we don't have downtime between contractors. So that's been pretty cool. And so that's going along pretty well. And then we've done gutters for a while, but we just launched our first in-house gutter team. So we got the box truck and the whole thing, and we're pretty excited about that, to be able to service our customers really well. We had kind of subbed it out before.
This seems to go together too.
Yeah.
Because if you're painting the outside of a house, you're right up against the gutters. And
yeah, and
you find a lot of things that when you're up there that, hey, this is falling apart.
Gutters are the number one reason that your paint job fails.
Leaks and
Leaks and cracks and just rotten wood. You get we get those occasional ice storms, and then ice will build up, and you get water that comes behind over the gutters and gets into soffits and fascia. So it's the number one thing. So we're really excited about that, and that's been awesome. We've got a great lead tech, Devon, who is got like 20 years of experience, and he's been awesome to kind of take that and run with it.
Guards too?
Yeah, we do gutter guards as well.
Yep.
So, which is another thing that people don't quite realize, how most people just think you put gutters up in your house and they work, but everybody here in Atlanta has got 9,000 trees around every house. I would bet that probably 80% of people's
Never been
gutters,
up on their roof before.
never been up the roof, don't know that their gutters are clogged up, don't realize that water's just overflowing, that, you know, you can get foundational issues, rotten wood,
Tons.
yeah, I mean, there's a ton of issues that
You should be blowing them out if you don't have guards and you do have trees, like a couple times a year. I mean, at least like twice a year minimum.
yes, minimum of twice a year.
Yeah.
Yep.
So all right.
So
Well, that's exciting, man. I really appreciate you coming in and telling us about all of this. We're definitely going to want to do some follow-up stuff because I know you have a lot of things cooking.
Yeah.
We're always excited to hear about that stuff. So tell us kind of where people can find you, like numbers, email, website,
so,
whatever.
AtlantaPaintingCompany.com is our website. That's the best place to go. It's got kind of all of our information website there. You can hear us if you listen to the radio. So 680, we're the sponsor for the Braves pregame this year. So you can hear us on there. But the AtlantaPaintingCompany.com is probably the easiest place to go to find us. And from there, you can kind of get to pretty much everything.
Yep.
So
Great. That's awesome, man.
Cool.
Thanks for coming in today.
My pleasure. Thanks for having me.